Is your business on Twitter? Not sure, are you getting the most out of it? Well, or you're maybe feeling it's not relevant or effective compared to maybe the other channels that you might be on. Well, stay tuned as our special guest today may change your mind on this. And she is the world's leading Twitter expert. Here to share her insights, tips, and so much more.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, Emer, and special guest Madalyn Sklar, and all the listeners and community in Ireland and around the world.
Yeah, I'm wearing
the green jumper. Well, we're in the green. Yeah, we're in the green.
I'm wearing the green, and I won't tell you else where I'm wearing green. There,
that was. Bit too much information. This is a PG show, Emer. You know.
Oh, I know. No, it's just about. Were you any plans for later, Mr. T? Are you going to wet the shamrock, or as I said?
I might do. Yeah. Thankfully, we're beyond parades now with my kids. You know, they're
same here.
Netflix and
it's a wee bit cold to be standing around. You know,
exactly.
Have you ever gone to the Dublin parade?
Years ago, when the kids were babies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Madalyn, before we start, have you ever been to a St. Patrick's Day parade?
I have not, but I have celebrated St. Patrick's Day at bars before. I mean, it's pretty popular here in the U.S. It's a reason to, drink. So
yeah. And it's a long weekend.
All Americans are Irish. You know, we have DNA with our brothers and sisters in America. So
that's right.
I know. We'll give you a few sláinte tips later, as they say.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. So anyway, today we are joined, as Philip was saying, we have Madalyn Sklar. Must ask you about your surname, actually. I never make it round to it before. And she's a serial entrepreneur, community builder, a leading Twitter marketing expert. She's got so much tips, Twitter Smarter. Oh, we're going to go with loads. I don't like saying this, how many years people are, experts, but she must start off when she was 5, because she's over 26 years of marketing experience, and 17, a bit like yourself, Philip. And it's no surprise.
That's the grey hair, don't let that fool you, So.
Charm is up, the old Irish charm at the day that's in it. And she's the #1 leading social media influencer in Houston, Texas. And that's one place I've always wanted to go. And each week, Madalyn hosts, and Philip has been on it, I've been on it, which is a fabulous experience, is the hashtag Twitter Smarter
super hashtag.
Chat Hour. So do go check out that hashtag on Twitter. And she brings in such great guests with lots of insights themselves, and it can really expand your reach by even just engaging on the platform for the hour. So welcome to Let's Get Social, Miss Madalyn Sklar.
Thank you all so much for having me. I'm just honored to be here on your show.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time, because you are in demand. Your Twitter knowledge and insights and wisdom is always in demand, etc., from all of the leading social media events. So we're very honored to have you on the show for a second time. Definitely, if you missed Madalyn the first time, it's on the Let's Get Social Show podcast. And before we dive into chatting with Madalyn, if you missed our last show, we did a deep dive into Instagram with Karen McCarthy. So that's also now up on the Let's Get Social Show podcast. And the great thing is Madalyn is going to be with us for 2 shows. So this is part 1. So stay tuned for part 2 next week.
Yes. So go check out us on Spotify, iTunes, Podbeam, Dublin South FM website. And as Philip would always say, if video is your thing, go check us out on YouTube. We are there. Go subscribe. It'll be worth your while, especially today. And ring that bell so you don't miss anything going forward. And of course, leave us a comment and tell us what you thought of today's show and anything you'd like us to cover, and we'll turn it into a show.
Exactly. And before we crack on with the questions and put Madalyn on the spot, which she is the ultimate professional, so we can't really put her on the spot because she'll know all the answers, is if you have any topics or anything comes out of this interview that you want to know more about when it comes to Twitter, you can email us at inquiries@dublinsouthfm.ie.
So Madalyn, let's just throw you off the deep end here. If people...
Don't throw it till we've got the answers, Emer.
Look, Maybe just wait and let her get to the bar first. We'll meet them then afterwards. Yeah. So for any businesses out there who feel Twitter is not really their gig, it's not relevant for them, you know, and it may not be effective anymore, what would you say to switch their mindset, as they say?
Yeah, and I get asked this question all the time. Is probably the number one over the years. And I feel like Twitter is one of the best platforms to be on when you're just trying to connect and build community. You know, people just don't think of Twitter for that. They think, oh, I just go there and type these short little snippets. I can't do long form. And it's just a sea of so many other people. Nobody's paying attention. When I go there, it's a ghost town. Nobody replies to me. And that's why I always say, well, you're not doing it right then, if that's the case. It is a very relevant platform and is where you should devote some time to, because it is, I have found over the years, it is so much easier to connect with like-minded people in business. You know, when we think of business, people go to LinkedIn, right? Because that's a great place to go to connect with people in your industry. It's great for prospecting, but Twitter can be just as valuable or even more so than a platform like LinkedIn, because so many people are using Twitter that are people of influence. When I think back to years ago, Gary Vaynerchuk, even before Gary Vaynerchuk, who's well known, written all these, you know, New York Times best-selling books, it teaches people how to use social media, has his own social media agency. He, in the earlier years of Twitter, like, I could get on there and get his attention. And I was thinking, and this was like early days, like, you know, where you just don't think you can get in front of somebody who's a big deal. Yeah. And I had tweeted with him multiple times where he responded to me. Yeah. And then in the early days of when Twitter added video, I want to say that had to have been like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think what year that was, maybe 2008 or 9 or something. 2013 or 14. I was thinking when I first started Twitter, 2008. Right. But years later, they added the ability where you could do just make a little video like we do on Instagram and TikTok, right? Yeah. But it was so ahead of its time and people just didn't think to do that. And I can remember making a little video and to Gary Vaynerchuk, and he replied back and talked to me on a video in Twitter. Wow. And here he had like 1 million followers. He's this big deal, writing all these books. He's just becoming this big deal. And I'm thinking, wow, would that happen on Facebook? No. Would that happen on LinkedIn? Probably not, because so many times on LinkedIn, we get spam so much over there that it can be really hard to like talk to somebody of influence. But I always say, if people of influence are using Twitter, you can get their attention. Yeah. And you can do it pretty easily. So that was the start of me realizing early on that I could talk to big deal people that are using Twitter that I would not be able to reach otherwise. And then also realizing that it's not about this one-way street of me just putting out my, you know, sharing my blog posts and buy my book, buy my course. I think that's where so many businesses fail on Twitter. They think, well, if I just tweet out stuff that my company sells and information about who we are and what we do, that's enough. And it's not enough. It's a place to go to build relationships. I met both of you on Twitter, and we did not start off this relationship by me saying, hey, go sign up for my Twitter course. You need it. Because you look at it and go, who is this person? And why is she trying to get me to buy something from her? I don't even know her. It's all about
you don't even know if it'll be any good either, because you're going to go, I'm not
so it's just connecting and just talking to people. And I think Twitter has been so great for this because it's short snippets. It's not these long form like we have on these other platforms where it's just short to the point, which makes it easier to talk to a lot of people in a short period of time. So I think that when you focus more on how can I help people, how can I just listen, not always do the talking, but listen and find interesting conversations to jump into and just talk to people and let them get to know me. but make sure I have a really great profile that says who I am and what I do. So when I do reach out and I'm talking to people that have no idea who I am, they're going to take a moment and go, well, who is this Madalyn Sklar? Why should I listen to her? They'll go look at my profile and go, oh, she's pretty interesting. Okay. I think, and she's not trying to sell me something. Let me listen. I might learn something and make a new friend and maybe somebody that can help me in my business.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we connected on Twitter back in 2016, and I'd been kind of watching your tweets, and you were just putting out content that was so helpful and useful tips and thought leadership. And I sent you a video message, hey, Madalyn.
Yep, I remember.
Stuff, great, and I remember, I think it was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, and getting a video back from you. And I was like, I nearly fell off the couch going, oh my God, this influencer has messaged me back, So I totally agree with that, because I think a lot, like, I don't know what your thoughts on this, Madalyn, and this is sort of an extra question on top of that, but do you think that there's so much troubles and the Elon takeover of Twitter and all of these sort of conversations around what's happening within the organization, and do you think that has sort of damaged Twitter in the eyes of some businesses that we're not going to go onto that channel because we don't believe in the Elon philosophy? Or do you think that's just sort of smoke and mirrors to a certain extent?
Well, sadly, I think there are plenty of businesses, plenty of companies, and just people that have decided, I'm not into this whole Elon Musk thing. I don't like the things he's saying. And being that he's the owner of Twitter now, I mean, all eyes are on him. And I have to admit that I'm not a big fan of his. And
Me neither.
get really turned off by some of these tweets he puts out. I think a lot of them are very degrading. And when he first took over, for several weeks, I was just questioning, like, why am I on this platform? Why am I using this? I don't want people to think because I'm here that I'm on his side. So I was very vocal, like, I'm not a fan of his, but, because then I think back, well, this is still a great platform. I've connected with so many people, and I still can connect with so many amazing people. And it's great for relationship building, great for my business. And then I can help so many other people with their business through Twitter. So what I had to realize very quickly when he took over was to just not pay attention to his tweets. And it was as simple as that, because here they let go of a ton of employees.
Yeah.
And especially important ones, like the people that communicate what's going on at Twitter. The only way you really know what's going on with Twitter is you got to pay attention to Elon Musk's tweets. And so, but to me, it was just a turn off of like, well, I don't like how he's talking to people, and I don't like what he said in this tweet, and why am I here? But I realized when I just stopped paying attention.
And then
like,
he's saying about bringing,
I
was going to say that he's starting to bring in, I don't know what your thoughts are, Philip, or even yourself, Madalyn, but he's thinking of bringing in back Mr. Trump.
Oh, I know. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I know a lot of people left the platform, a lot of celebrities, a lot of big companies. Interesting that they lost a lot of big advertisers. And that's how Twitter has historically made their money, through advertisers. And he had turned off so many of these advertisers that they stopped. But it was, for some of these companies, it was very brief. A lot of them just came right back because they realized, probably like what I realized, like, this is still a great platform. We can still reach our audience here. Let's just stop paying attention to him. And it's like, and like that whole Twitter files thing in the beginning, I'm like, like everybody else, oh, what are they going to talk about next with this? And then very quickly, I'm like, this is so much BS. I just cannot pay attention to it because it is ruining my Twitter experience.
Yeah.
And I think that for anyone listening that is turned off by Elon Musk and the direction Twitter's been going and all the antics and things going on, just tune it out.
Yeah.
To help you stay centered in the fact that it is still a great platform. I've been hosting my Twitter Smarter Chat every week since 2015. I've been hosting it for a long time. It's going to be 8 years this summer.
Wow.
And it's still going strong. And I cannot imagine not having that. And not only do I still host the chat itself every week, I also, in addition, have Twitter Spaces as a part 2, because I love Twitter Spaces. I love audio. I've been podcasting for 10 years. I just love everything about audio. So what I had decided to do 2 years ago when Spaces became available and seeing the power of using that type of way to connect with people inside of Twitter was to just use that in addition. So I still host a Twitter chat with the hashtag Twitter Smarter every Thursday, 1:00 Eastern, and then take a break. A few hours later, we come back into Twitter, but we go into Spaces and we talk to the guests and have them continue the conversation with us. So now we get their expanded thoughts. And so many people are just blown away by how much information, they can receive on this little platform.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get that like anywhere else.
You really would not.
Yeah.
Not easily. Not easily.
No, I know. A lot of people were jumping on Clubhouse. Do you remember, Philip? You had to get the invite in.
And
we didn't like it.
I didn't care for it either. And I got on it early on before Twitter Spaces started.
Yeah.
And I was really excited about this. But when you have a brand new platform, a new app that you have to go download, we all start with 0 followers. Right. We have to start over. And I think it was wrong of them to make it so difficult to get in, because in the beginning you had to be invited by somebody already in. Luckily, I got invited by somebody already in very early on when everybody was going crazy trying to get in. But the fact that they made it so difficult and iOS only. So I felt bad for all my Android friends who could not use this platform for the longest time. But I always felt like I was in a TED Talk where you never got the chance to speak. It would be like somebody and all their friends, and they were trying to put themselves out there like they're experts. And it was a big turnoff. I just did not care for it. I like that it was a way to do audio in an interesting way. Yeah. And it was just different and new, and at a time when many of us were still in lockdowns with COVID and we're looking for other ways to connect with people. It was
and you didn't have to worry about your hair or makeup, Philip. So it was good. It was
nice. Now I have to. You see, now I have to.
Glad you said that, not me. I was going to say one thing I value very much so is digital customer service. As Philip knows, I'm a big advocate for that. I was a while back. I was asked, could I put together a program on it, and the only platform I felt that it would work would be Twitter, because a lot of companies out there are using Twitter as a separate customer service channel. Say, for example, the airlines. Yes, Philip, where you can go make your complaint. Exactly. When it comes to that, Madalyn, what do you think businesses are doing right and what are they doing wrong?
Yeah, with customer service. It is so interesting how Twitter became like the platform for customer service, because I can remember very early on with Twitter, I had some kind of issue with FedEx. And back in the early days of social media, before we were thinking of using that, what did we do? We would call an 800 number and hang on the phone and wait for an hour to talk to somebody. Then email got popular, and it's like, oh, well, let me email, but it usually took 3 days for a response. So when social media was early, I think because Twitter was such a quick real-time platform and known for like breaking news and just things happening right here, right now, that became the go-to. It started slow, but I just remember this. I had this issue with FedEx. Early days, I would say probably within a year or two of being on Twitter. So it was probably like 2009, 2010. And I thought, I'm just going to do a tweet. I remember I did a tweet, dear at FedEx, blah, blah, blah. I was complaining of it. It was 160 characters back then. So it's 140 characters. So it's like, how can I say this concisely? And I just remember just being really disappointed in not receiving an overnight package that I paid for. And I got a response very quickly. And I'm thinking, this could be the way businesses, especially the airlines, FedEx, anything is big, deal with customer service, because as long as you have somebody dedicated, or over time, it became like a whole team of people. But initially, I think it would be like one person at a big company in charge of all social media. And I think they very quickly saw that Twitter was being used for customer service. And when we fast forward to now in 2023, everybody, no matter whether you're a big business, small business, just, you're an entrepreneur doing your own thing, you really should always be paying attention to your Twitter feed and those notifications and those DMs, because that has become the go-to place where people, if they're having a problem, they're having an issue. And, many times,
like, you'd pop in. I was going to say, you should, as a tip, you probably agree with me here, is put your business name into the Twitter search and see what pops up.
Oh, yes. Everybody should definitely be monitoring their business name, anything that's relevant to their business. And I mean, I've been using tools for that for a long time. Actually, there's a tool I love called Brand24. It's just brand24.com.
Yeah.
And they're based over in Europe, a great company. And it has been my favorite go-to tool when it comes to monitoring who's talking about you, and a place to go to get even more analytics than what you do on your individual social media accounts. Because you can get plenty of analytics over at Twitter, analytics.twitter.com, or in your menu on Twitter, desktop only. They don't have this available on the mobile app, but you can access all kinds of data that can really help you. But a tool like Brain24 goes so beyond that, and it doesn't monitor just your social media. It can monitor the web, it can monitor podcasts, it can monitor YouTube. And so, because my name is unusual, and that is my brand, is Madalyn Sklar, it's very easy for me to have that set up in Brain24. And I can go in there anytime and see, I have alerts set up, but I can also just go into the platform at any time and see who's talking about me, what are they saying. But you do bring up a great point, Eimer. Everyone should be looking and doing searches of their business, of themselves, to see because not everybody tags you. And so, we think, oh, well, if I just watch my notifications, well, yes, look at your notifications daily, multiple times a day. You do not want to miss opportunity to fix something when you have a customer who's upset, and this gives you the opportunity to fix it quickly. And I know many times people don't like when it's public, when they do like the Dear at FedEx instead of a DM. Of course, we all prefer a DM, so it's not out being broadcast. But when it is a public tweet and somebody's not happy with you, what a great opportunity to show that you care in front of the world and keep it public, at least for a moment, and be like, we're here to help. Let me help you, and put that out there before you say, let's go ahead and move this to the DMs, send us, the details so we can work on this for you. But you got to show people you care is so important.
Well, you can turn, certainly with that approach, you can turn a negative into a really strong positive.
Absolutely. And you can use video to do it. Like what we were talking about before, like the power of video. That's where I think so many people are not thinking when it comes to Twitter, the power of video. When we think of video, we think of Instagram, we think of TikTok. But just like you mentioned earlier, Philip, when we first met on Twitter, I did like a little video. And you and I have done videos in the DMs before, and it's just, it's so personal. And you're like, it goes beyond just typing and saying what you want to say, but to being able to see the person and they're talking specifically to you. There's so much power in that. And I think if more businesses thought more about, well, I can resolve this. And of course I can type out this great response and show everybody we care and we want to help this customer. But how much more powerful when you just make a video that you put out there? Nobody does that. I would love to see like a big airline do something like that. Do
you see many people using, like, we're talking about audio as well. Do you see people using audio tweets a lot, or do you think that's kind of?
No. And audio tweets have been around for quite a while.
Yeah, I know.
But only for iOS. I never understood why they never added Android to that. Is iOS only, which I think is odd. It's only on the mobile app.
Yeah, on the mobile app,
But what a great way to easily connect with people just through the power of voice. And I thought people would use it, and you just don't. You don't.
Well, I tried it out one Saturday morning and I got so many likes. I was there putting on having a coffee here.
Nobody does it. Whenever you do something that's not the standard, audio, video, just things that people don't normally do on Twitter that gives you that ability to stand out, because it's going to show up in the feed and people go, whoa, what's this?
Yeah. And it's like,
listen, audio, it's
you're
like,
always curious. Yeah. And because you can't do that on any of the other platforms, like there's no audio Facebook posts.
Right.
Or Instagram.
Unless you upload a file or something,
Yeah. But you know the way it's great, Philip, you just go in and click the little mic. And talk away, and nobody see. You don't have to wipe your hair or makeup again, Philip.
No, I could be literally in the dressing gown and be saying, "Hey, Madalyn, how's it going?"
Exactly. That's the power of audio. I'll never forget one of the very first times I was in Clubhouse when it was brand new and people were still trying to figure this all out. I was listening to a room in Clubhouse, and they had all these speakers, and this one lady goes, "Yeah, I'm in the bathtub right now while I'm talking to you all." And I'm like, okay, that's a little too much information, but it showed that you could be doing anything.
Yeah.
Nobody sees you, so it doesn't matter. Many times I would be in Twitter spaces while driving and just listening, and people go, "Oh, Madalyn's here," and it'd be like, "Okay, I guess I'll jump in for a minute while I'm driving." Keeping my eyes on the road the whole time, of course.
Yeah.
Walking my dog. I mean, there were plenty of times I'd just be out walking my dog, and it's like, let me go check spaces and see what's going on, what kind of conversations are going on, and just being able. It's like a live podcast, and I think it's just amazing that we all carry around our phones that are so incredibly powerful to connect us with the world.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, I suppose this leads on to a nice sort of kind of area, because something that, and I don't know if you come across this with your clients, Madalyn, like certainly some of the business that myself and Emer would have engaged with sometimes struggle with how can they showcase their expertise through Twitter, whether it be how they craft the tweet, the content, should it be video, should they be kind of using images or multiple images, links back to blog posts. Like, how do you tend to approach how best to use Twitter to showcase expertise? Is it sort of like, thought-provoking tweets that kind of build up on a journey to lead to a final destination, or what would your thoughts be on that?
Such a great question. There's so many different ways to approach it. So I always tell everybody, experiment, because you might find that crafting really great threads where you can just take multiple tweets together. So like when you have a blog post, and I've been experimenting with this a lot in my Twitter feed more recently, where I'll have a blog post, but what do we used to do? Well, we have a tweet up to 280 characters. So let me just kind of summarize it and then link to the blog post. But with threads, we can say more because it can all come together. So it can be like 5 tweets threaded together so that you click on it and you can just keep reading. And now one of the new features with Twitter Blue is up to 4,000 character tweets, which I think is a little too much. It's a little too much, but I've been experimenting with it, and it's pretty cool, and I'm getting really good engagement. So the thing is, there's no one way to do this. You have to experiment to see what's going to work, because it's also dependent on your community, your audience. What are they interested in? So I would experiment with the audio. I would experiment with video. I experiment with these longer tweets where you can thread them together. And also interesting, since you had brought up the audio tweets, it used to be when you did the audio tweet, you could talk for up to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And then once you hit that limit, it would stop. It doesn't do that anymore. You can talk longer, and it turns into a thread. So it will be multiple tweets together, starting with the first one, and it'll play that first one. When it gets to 2 minutes and 20 seconds, it'll immediately go to the next one and go on and on and on until it finishes the entire thing. It used to be you had to really pay attention to how long you were talking, and there's no timer, and it would just cut off. And so I think the most important thing is to understand the features on Twitter. What is it you can do on this platform? I mean, this applies to any social media platform. What is it you can do? What are the features? Understand them, learn them, so you could take advantage of that to help you with your message for your brand. So back to the question, there's so many different ways. So I'm always experimenting and trying things. So I do want to get people to my website to read my blogs. I do put out a weekly blog post on Twitter marketing. And so like I said before, I would just kind of craft this singular tweet with the link in hopes that this little summary would drive them over. And then when threads started becoming popular, it's like, okay, I can keep going, go a little longer. And then I've experimented with videos, I experimented with the audio, and just trying different things. So I think it's just important to try things to see what connects with your audience. And as I mentioned, with this Twitter Blue brand new feature, this 4,000 character tweets, it's only been out for a short period of time. I think it was sometime in January, it came out this year. And I was thinking, oh, we don't need this. That's to go from first it was 140 characters and then went to 280 characters years ago. Felt like that was enough. And because we can thread, that's helpful. But to be able to type up to 4,000 characters, so I played around with it. And I thought, okay, several weeks ago, I thought, let me take one of my new blog posts and let me just put way more into this one tweet, because I do have Twitter Blue. And I did it, and I couldn't believe I got a ton of views. It's a really good engagement.
Because it's different.
It's different. Right now it's different.
Although I'm wondering,
everybody has it.
Because you're on, I was going to say, there's only so much of a screen you can look at, and I'm just there going,
and
it must go on forever then, does it?
Well, what it'll do is, it will do the first 280 like we're used to seeing, and then you click to show more, and then it'll open up to see the whole thing.
Right.
And initially, when it was brand new, it looked good on desktop, and on mobile, it wasn't showing paragraph breaks. And so somebody was like, well, Madalyn, this is really interesting, but it doesn't look really good. And it didn't even dawn on me to go look at it on mobile. And I saw it on mobile. I'm like, oh, this looks terrible. But then they fixed it pretty quickly. I'm sure somebody complained to Elon. And, Elon likes to move at lightning speed. It can be good and bad. Usually it's not very good when there's millions and millions of us using Twitter every day. And then not that long ago, they turned off Twitter Spaces for about 18 hours. And because journalists were saying negative things about Elon Musk. And not only that, but people that he had banned this was several months back, he had banned some journalists. You'll probably remember that story, right? He banned some journalists briefly. They were able to get into Spaces. And I think somebody pointed out to him. So they realized there was a bug in the system, because if you're temporarily banned on Twitter, why are you able to get into Spaces? But these journalists were able to. So he didn't like that. He had Spaces turned off for 18 hours, which many of us, like myself, who host, I host 3 different Spaces every single week for the last 2 years. So I was pretty upset that they did this, and we're like, okay, do we have to go back to Clubhouse now? Because I'd rather stay in Twitter. Because the beauty of Twitter Spaces is that you're not, as I mentioned earlier, you're not starting over with no followers and having to build yourself up on a brand new platform.
And then you're trying to get people to come over to Clubhouse and come join me over here. And they're going to go, and they're going, no, we don't want to.
Exactly.
I suppose, and that is a worry, I suppose, for businesses, the fact that Elon has that sort of power that if he
it's
just
scary. It's scary because it could turn. Listen, Twitter could go away tomorrow, and what can we do about it? Nothing. I remember back in the MySpace days. MySpace, while I know plenty of people used it just for their personal, for fun and hanging out with friends, I was using it for business. I was in the music business industry back then, and it was a powerful tool for musicians and music industry professionals. And we never thought in a million years it'd go away. It was like the platform during its heyday, and then it disappeared. And so I just remind people, like, hey, these platforms are free. We can't control them. It could go away tomorrow, but I'm even more concerned when it's one person who owns the company instead of some corporation. So it does make me nervous that, this could go away tomorrow. But I also feel like, on the flip side, if Twitter was going to shut down, he would have shut it down early on, and he hasn't, and it's still going. And
he wants to look like he's in control, you know. But like Philip thinks he's in control.
Well, speaking of being in control, would you believe we are nearly at the end of the first part?
Wow.
I know it has been. It's hard to believe.
Can y'all tell that I can talk about this all day? Like, we can have like an all day free for all. Let's talk about Twitter.
Well, if by magic,
this is 2 parts then, Madalyn, because I tell you, there's a lot more to talk about.
I know. Definitely. I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
Well, I think definitely we'll be continuing, obviously, in part 2, because, as you said, you can go down a rabbit hole, and you've been down it, Madalyn. You know what's going on, and it'd be great to explore more about Twitter Blue and maybe some of the other things that are happening in Twitter in part 2. So
stay tuned, as they say, guys. So Madalyn, so far so good. In the first show, we want to say thank you very much for joining us for part one. Where would you like people to go check you out, as they say?
Well, the best place is Twitter, of course, because I'm very active there at Madalyn Sklar. And again, because I have an unusual name, you can find me anywhere with that name at Madalyn, Madalyn Sklar. Also, my website, madalynsklar.com. And as I also mentioned earlier, I have lots of articles all about using Twitter, all kinds of Twitter marketing articles just by going to my website.
Yeah. Have you anything coming up that we can sort of give a shout out about? Or do you want to hold off till part two?
You know, one of the things I am going to be doing is restarting my Twitter Smarter podcast. I've been podcasting for a long time, and actually, little known fact, everybody knows me from my Twitter Smarter Twitter chat. I started the podcast first. It was actually the Twitter Smarter podcast.
Right.
And so quickly it did so well and we got very, very popular that less than 2 months later was when I launched the Twitter chat. My Twitter chat I was going to do, but I wanted to get the podcast going first. But I got such a great response, and nobody was doing it. Nobody. Back then in 2015, and still today in 2023, nobody just focuses on teaching Twitter marketing. I'm just so amazed that you would think there'd be a bunch of podcasts and a bunch of Twitter spaces, and they're not.
No.
Well,
we'll drive people to your podcast through the links, Philip, won't we?
We will indeed. We see you scared them all off, Madalyn, because you're so good. No, I can't compete with that. No way.
It's hilarious for us, actually. I was going to say, Philip, we're still the only social media and digital marketing radio show in Ireland.
Yeah,
it's been your jokes.
Wow. It probably is. I've scared everybody off because probably, because, but no, listen, this has been a great first show, Madalyn. Thank you so much. And of course, to you, everybody listening, if you enjoyed today's show, you will be able to catch it again on the Let's Get Social Show podcast, which is up on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, and of course the Dublin South FM website.
And if, as I say, if video is your thing, and it started to be mine, I never thought I'd say that. Do join us on YouTube, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a show, and leave us a comment and let us know how we're doing and what you'd like us to cover in another show.
Exactly. And just again, if there's any topics or you want to talk more about Twitter or learn something else about Twitter, drop us an email, inquiries@dublinsouthfm.ie.
So guys, we will see you for the next big thing, part 2. Don't you want to miss it?
Yeah, so until then, thank you, Madalyn. And
thank you for having me.
See you on the other side. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.